I booked the cabin because I needed a break from people. That sounds dramatic, but I don't mean it that way. I work remotely, spend most of my day on video calls, and live in a busy apartment building where I can hear someone's dog barking through the wall almost every night. I just wanted a few days somewhere quiet. The Airbnb was about 40 minutes outside a small town in Washington. The listing looked great. Modern cabin, huge windows, private property, hot tub. The owner even mentioned limited cell service, which honestly sounded like a bonus. I stopped at a diner before heading up the mountain. The waitress asked where I was staying, and when I told her, she paused for a second. Then she shrugged. Pretty place up there. That was it. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. The cabin looked exactly like the pictures. Dark wood exterior, smart lock keypad on the front door, clean modern furniture inside. The kind of place that makes you feel like your life is more organized than it actually is. I unpacked, made dinner, and spent most of the evening reading. The woods outside were dense enough that I couldn't see very far between the trees. As the sun went down, a layer of fog started rolling in. By 10 o'clock, the forest had basically disappeared behind a gray wall. I slept surprisingly well. The next morning, I noticed something small. My car keys were sitting on the kitchen counter. I remembered leaving them on the table near the front door. Not vaguely remembered. I specifically remembered doing it. Still, people forget things all the time. I picked them up and didn't think much about it. Later that afternoon, I went for a walk down one of the trails behind the property. The woods felt strangely empty. No hikers, no houses, no sounds except my own footsteps. I actually checked my phone a few times just to see if I still had service. I didn't. When I got back to the cabin, I realized the front door wasn't completely closed, maybe an inch open. I stood there staring at it. I was almost positive I'd shut it before leaving. Almost. That word kept bothering me. Almost. I convinced myself I'd been careless. I closed it and went inside. That night I woke up around 2 a.m. No idea why. The room was completely dark. For a few seconds I just lay there. Then I heard something. A slow creak. Not outside. Inside. I immediately sat up. The sound stopped. I listened for what felt like 10 minutes. Nothing happened. Eventually I got out of bed and checked the cabin. Every room, closets, bathroom, front door. Everything was locked. I felt stupid afterward. I even laughed at myself. The woods were making me paranoid. At least, that's what I thought. The next morning, I found a coffee mug in the sink. I hadn't used it. I know that sounds ridiculous. It's just a mug. But when you're staying alone somewhere, you notice things. I only used one mug during the trip. This wasn't it. It was blue. Mine was white. I remember standing there trying to come up with an explanation. Maybe the cleaning crew forgot it. Maybe it had been sitting somewhere and I hadn't noticed. Neither explanation felt right. I left it in the sink and tried not to think about it. That evening, fog covered everything again, thicker than before. The trees outside looked like shadows behind frosted glass. Around 9:30, the Wi-Fi stopped working. A few minutes later, the lights flickered. The power came back immediately, but something felt different afterward. The silence. That's the part I remember most. The woods had gone completely quiet. No insects, no branches moving, nothing. I walked over to the living room window and looked outside. At first, I didn't see anything. Then I noticed someone standing near the tree line. A person. At least I think it was. The figure was far away, partially hidden by fog. I couldn't make out any details. I stood there frozen. The figure didn't move, didn't wave, didn't walk away. Just stood there, watching the cabin. I grabbed my phone to take a picture. The second I looked back up, it was gone. I didn't sleep much that night. The next morning, I found footprints outside, human footprints. The ground was muddy from rain. The prints came from the woods. They stopped at the deck. There were no footprints leading away. I actually felt sick when I saw them. I contacted the Airbnb owner. His response came about an hour later. No one should be on the property. That was it. No explanation. No concern, nothing. I decided I was leaving the next morning. One more night. That was my mistake. Around midnight, I couldn't sleep, so I started looking through drawers for a deck of cards or something to keep my mind occupied. Instead, I found a black notebook, a guest journal. Most entries were normal. People talking about hiking trails and wildlife. Then I reached one entry written 3 months earlier. It was only one sentence. Check the bedroom closet. That was all. No explanation, no context. I remember rolling my eyes. It felt like somebody trying to be creepy. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I walked into the bedroom and opened the closet. At first, I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then my stomach dropped. Names. Dozens of names carved into the back wall. Some were crossed out. Some weren't. Dates were written beside several of them. The carvings looked old, except for one. My name. My full name. Freshly carved into the wood. I just stared at it. My brain refused to process what I was seeing. Nobody should have known I was there. I hadn't told anyone where I was staying. I backed out of the room, grabbed my backpack, keys, phone, wallet. I was done. As I reached the front door, I noticed it was slightly open, maybe 2 inches. I know I had locked it. I know it. A cold breeze drifted through the gap. Then I heard a floorboard creak somewhere behind me. Not outside, inside the cabin. I didn't turn around. I ran. I sprinted to my car and locked the doors the second I got inside. As the headlights swept across the woods, I saw movement. Several figures standing between the trees. Maybe people, maybe not. I couldn't tell. I didn't stay long enough to find out. I drove straight back to town. The next day, I checked the Airbnb listing. It was gone. Deleted completely. No photos, no reviews, nothing. For months, I convinced myself I'd imagined parts of it. Stress, isolation, lack of sleep. Then last week I received an email. No sender, no message. Just a single attachment. A photograph. It showed the bedroom closet. The wall of names. My name was still there. Below it, someone had carved a new date. Tomorrow's date. I've checked that photo at least 50 times. I still can't explain something. The picture wasn't taken inside an empty room. Whoever took it was standing behind me. And I know that because part of my face is visible in the closet mirror. I'm currently locked inside a bathroom at a gas station 3 miles away from the building, and I'm terrified to check my phone. I just need to type this out before the adrenaline wears off and I completely break down. I'm a freelancer, and I booked a luxury high-rise condo in downtown Seattle for a week to finish a project. The place was on the 24th floor, super modern industrial style, with exposed brick and concrete walls. The listing had 5 stars and praised the unmatched city views and total security. It had a Nest camera doorbell on the outside and a digital keypad on the door. I felt completely safe. You don't expect to get stalked when you're surrounded by hundreds of neighbors. The first night was fine, though the layout of the place was a little weird. It had a massive walk-in closet in the bedroom, but the very back wall of the closet was covered by a heavy decorative full-length mirror that was bolted directly into the drywall. I didn't think anything of it. Just interior design, right? The anomalies started on Tuesday. I came back to the condo after grabbing a burrito down the street. When I walked into the bathroom to wash my hands, the bath mat was soaked. Not just damp, drenches. Like someone had just stepped out of the shower. I lived alone, and I hadn't taken a shower since that morning. I stared at it. my heart doing a weird little double tap. Did the toilet leak? No, the floor around it was dry. I eventually convinced myself I must have spilled water from the sink and forgotten about it. You do stupid things when you're sleep deprived. But then, that night, I couldn't find my AirPods. I always leave them on the nightstand. I searched the whole place and finally found them sitting inside a coffee mug in the kitchen cabinet. At that point, a cold, prickly feeling crawled up my neck. I was living in a locked condo on the 24th floor. The fob required an elevator scan just to get to my level. There was no way anyone was getting in. I checked the history on the front door's smart lock app. No unauthorized entries. It was just me. I felt like I was losing my mind. Last night, around 3 a.m., I woke up because the room felt freezing. I sat up shivering and noticed a faint draft coming from the bedroom closet. The closet door, which I always shut before bed because I'm paranoid like that, was cracked open about an inch. I lay there in the dark, my chest tight, listening. The city traffic outside was a distant hum, but inside the apartment, it was dead silent. Then I heard it. A soft scraping sound. Click, shh, like something heavy sliding against drywall. It came from inside the closet. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and stood up. My legs felt like lead. I walked over to the closet and pushed the door open. The heavy full-length mirror at the back of the closet was pulled out. It wasn't bolted to the wall at all. It was on hinges. Behind it was a dark, narrow utility crawl space. Just raw studs, fiberglass insulation, and exposed pipes. I shone my flashlight into the dark gap. The dust on the floorboards was disturbed. There were fresh footprints leading away into the darkness of the building's maintenance shaft. And then my flashlight beam hit something else. Right on the edge of the drywall framework was a small black plastic square. A wireless hidden camera pointed directly through a tiny drilled hole in the mirror's frame. It was aimed right at my bed. I felt a wave of pure, nausea-inducing terror. I didn't look any further. I grabbed my keys and my wallet from the nightstand and sprinted out of the apartment in my sweatpants. I didn't even wait for the elevator. I ran down 24 flights of concrete stairs, my heart bursting out of my chest. I got into my car in the parking garage and drove until I found this gas station. As soon as I parked, my phone buzzed. It was a notification from the Airbnb app, a message from the host. I opened it. It was a photo. It was a picture taken from inside my car's back seat, looking at the back of my head while I was driving away from the building. "You forgot your laptop. Don't worry, I'm keeping it safe for us." I slowly turned around to look at my back seat. It was empty. But when I looked up at the gas station rearview mirror, I noticed the trunk access panel between the back seats was unlatched and hanging wide open,